8 men hand-crank a bomb toward a Union warship. Their iron boat had already killed 13 of its own. They climbed in anyway. All 8 were found inside 136 years later. The bomb is fixed to a 16-foot pole. They have to drive it into the hull. On Housatonic, a lookout sees 2 bumps in the water about 100 yards away. It looks like a log. Then a porpoise. Then it does not turn. They have about 3 minutes. Housatonic reverses. Its heavy guns cannot point low enough. Pistols and rifles fire. The bomb hits. A 1,240-ton warship sinks. 5 die. About 150 survive. No submarine had ever sunk an enemy warship. This one just did. Then it vanished. The wreck solved where they went. It did not solve what killed them. The answer should be inside the hull. Instead, every clue collides with another. Start with the machine. The men were not passengers. They were the motor. 7 seats faced one long crankshaft connected to the propeller. The 8th man piloted from the front. Their target was USS Housatonic, 16 guns, 1,240 tons, holding the blockade 4 miles off Charleston. The pilot handled the rudder and hand-operated ballast while peering through tiny openings in the forward tower. Inside the sealed iron tube, every effort consumed air. Crank faster, breathe harder, open a hatch, risk the sea, dive, and trust hand-worked valves. In August 1863, Hunley dropped at the dock with 8 men aboard. 5 died. Even the cause is disputed: open hatches or fouled lines that pulled it sideways. The other 3 escaped. Charles Hasker was trapped beneath a hatch cover, rowed the submarine to the bottom, tore himself free, and swam back to the surface. The boat had killed 5 men without coming within a mile of an enemy. Its builder demanded another attempt. This time, Horace Lawson Hunley climbed inside. On October 15th, he was aboard a demonstration meant to pass beneath CSS Indian Chief and rise on the other side. It went under. It did not rise. Bad weather delayed the search. Divers did not recover the boat for more than 3 weeks. Rescuers reported Horace Hunley in the forward tower with a candle still in his hand. The forward ballast valve was open. Its wrench lay on the floor. The keel weights had been partly loosened. Those clues suggest the crew recognized the danger and tried to save the boat, but lost the race. Horace Hunley and all 7 men with him were dead. The submarine's toll was now 13. General P.G.T. Beauregard wrote the blunt verdict. The machine was more dangerous to those who used it than to the enemy. He authorized the mission anyway, on one condition. George Dixon and 7 new volunteers filled every seat. The condition was extraordinary: do not dive. Hunley was no longer being treated as a submarine. It was a surface-skimming bomb with 8 men for an engine. The weapon changed too. An earlier plan to tow an explosive was abandoned. In its place came black powder mounted on a 16-foot spar fixed to the bow. There was no torpedo to launch and no safe distance. Dixon had to ram the pole into a warship and trigger the charge close enough for the blast to reach his own crew. Every volunteer knew the boat had sunk twice. Every seat was filled anyway. Winter seas delayed them until February 17, 1864, when the water finally became calm enough to try. 8 men shut the hatches. 7 gripped the crank. Dixon faced the dark through the forward ports. 4 miles offshore, Housatonic waited on blockade duty. 8 men moving by muscle were closing on a 1,240-ton ship with 16 guns. Pistols and rifles flash above them. Bullets hammer the iron skin while the 7 men keep turning. Turning away now means the mission fails. Staying means detonating black powder 16 feet from their own faces. Hunley's spar strikes the starboard side below the waterline. The charge explodes. Housatonic drops into the shallow sea, leaving sailors in boats and rigging as rescue craft converge. 8 men and a crank had sunk a warship. Then the sea returned to darkness. 45 minutes later, a Housatonic survivor said he saw a blue light on the water near an approaching rescue ship. Confederate records expected blue lights from Hunley, then a guiding fire from shore. One report says the light appeared. Another says it did not. If it was Dixon, someone inside survived the explosion long enough to signal. If it was not, the boat may already have been lost. Men on land lit the guiding fire. Hunley never reached it. Union crews dragged the water around Housatonic. Confederate searchers looked toward the route home. The submarine was gone. The first crew to sink an enemy warship from a submarine disappeared in the same hour they proved the idea could work. For 131 years, the hunt followed an obvious assumption. The wreck should lie between Housatonic and shore. That assumption put the search on the wrong side of the ship. On May 3, 1995, Clive Cussler's search team detected a buried iron object offshore. Divers removed about 3 feet of sediment and exposed one of Hunley's small conning towers. The submarine lay less than 1,000 feet from Housatonic, but on the seaward side of the Union wreck. Its bow pointed roughly toward Housatonic and Sullivan's Island, as if the return journey had begun from a place nobody expected. One uneven lift could break the fragile hull and scatter the 8 sets of remains still inside. Divers tunneled beneath it and threaded 30 foam-filled slings into a custom cradle before anyone dared pull upward. On August 8, 2000, Hunley broke the surface for the first time in more than 136 years. The boat returned. So did the question of what happened after the explosion. Archaeologists found the crew's remains largely at their assigned stations. There was no pile of men at an exit, and no new damage to the bones that explained 8 deaths. That does not prove a peaceful death. Soft tissue injuries vanished with time. It only removes the cleanest versions of the story. The aft hatch was locked. The forward hatch was unlatched, but heavy enough to stay sealed while the boat remained upright. The ballast pumps were not set to remove water from the crew compartment. If the crew was fighting obvious flooding, the surviving controls do not show it. All 10 topside light ports were closed for blackout. The rudder lay detached beneath the wreck. One forward viewport was missing. That missing window invites a gunfire story. Until the search produces no bullet inside and no matching new wound in Dixon's bones. The wreck was not empty of evidence. It was crowded with evidence that refused to agree. The explosion is the obvious suspect. A shockwave may have injured or incapacitated the men before they could react. Official Navy modeling, however, described the load on Hunley as comparatively modest. The blast remains a theory, not a verdict. Exhaustion and bad air would explain why the men remained at their stations. It does not explain the unlatched forward hatch. A rescue ship's wake could have swamped that hatch if it had been opened for air or a signal. But the pumps were not set for an emergency flood. A collision could fit the detached rudder. The wreck cannot say when the rudder broke away. Every suspect owns a clue. None owns the whole boat. The wreck can narrow the mystery. It cannot close it. Years before Hunley, a bullet at Shiloh struck George Dixon and bent the gold coin he carried. He engraved it with his initials and called it his life preserver. The coin stopped a bullet at Shiloh. The boat never revealed what killed its crew.